Are you tired of your boring lighting? Don't you want to go ape? Does your ideal lighting for your VTuber involve a dynamic filter of your currently used screen with a nice little backlight around you? Maybe something like this? Well, if that's the case, then I can show you how to do that. Today I'm going to be teaching you how to use this exact lighting method on your VTuber for live streams and for recording purposes. Once you know how to use this method, you can also apply it to practically anything. Like, for example, give me a second to pull this up, but I have this set up on my just chatting screen, actually. And so if I come in here and I type some messages out, sorry for the lag right now, it actually will add the lighting effect over my model. This is only possible using StreamFX and source mirroring, which I will be explaining to you what exactly those things are and how to use them to achieve this kind of dynamic lighting. Now, really quick, before we begin, I wanted to show you guys where I got this from. I learned this method from Zephyr the Ferret, who learned it from Virtual Graves, who apparently learned it from yet another source, so this is like a decently long chain of people that have been contributing to this cool little lighting effect. Now, the thing that I will mention is that when I used Zephyr's tutorial, I'm not sure if this is just like an outdated thing related to OBS updates or maybe StreamFX updates, but this method doesn't seem to work as far as the backlighting goes anymore. So you can do the base lighting, but the backlighting doesn't work the same unless you do a little bit of a workaround, which I seem to have figured out, and that's what I'm going to be showing you how to do today. If you are the type of person that just wants the easy way to do this, let me briefly show you how to do this lighting in VtubeStudio. You can't do the backlighting thing, but you can do a base lighting. What you'll do is you will simply double click, go to the cog menu, click on the webcam menu, and scroll all the way down to the bottom where you've got this display lighting section. And what you'll do here is you will set it to either a window or whichever display you want to be referencing for your lighting effect. So I'm just going to select one. Immediately you see that my eyes look terrifying, and this is an effect that you can achieve in VtubeStudio. And if you want to have this neat little eyes lighting effect like I have, you can go into your model settings, go to customize model, customize scene lighting for art meshes, and then here you can select which art meshes on your model that you would like to be exempt from the lighting effect. So for example, like my ear is art mesh 15, so let's say you wanted your ears to be glowing. Yeah, there you go. That's how you do the eyes thing. That's why my eyes are like semi-glowing here. Pretty straightforward. But if you want to do the more complicated lighting, let's go ahead and hop into OBS and I will show you guys how to do that. So under the assumption that you already have OBS installed, we are going to go ahead and download and install StreamFX. There will be a link to this in the description. Pretty much what you're going to want to do is just download the software and follow the install instructions depending on which operating system you use. So before we begin, I did want to quickly explain to you guys what exactly like the importance of a source mirror is and why this comes in handy and why you should take the time to use them and set everything up using them instead of doing individual sources. So I'm going to give you this very terrible example real fast. I've got my two sample scenes here. I'm just using my memes folder. So we've got Puppy, right? And we want Puppy in both scenes, okay? But these are two separate scenes, so one of them is going to be the bouncer guy. Bouncer guy's letting Puppy in. But then in the second scene where we have the puppy, we want a different meme. So we've got these two scenes and they both have this same dog that is the same source image, right? Well, so what happens is, let's say in the bouncer scene, we want to add a filter to Puppy, right? We want to hue shift the dog and now it's a purple dog. Let's deep fry him a little bit for fun. Now he's deep fried, but now the problem is when we go back to scene one, he's deep fried here too, and we don't want that. We only want him to be deep fried in this scene. So how do you work around this without saving this image and adding it as a new source? What you do is you actually use a source mirror. So the way that this would work is instead of having Puppy have the filter on him, let's go ahead and add a source mirror, Puppy mirror, and we're going to set the source of the mirror to the dog. So now we've got, and then I'm gonna get rid of this here. So now we've got the same exact thing. It's still the image of the dog, right? But this isn't the actual source itself. This is a mirror of the source. So we can edit this source. We can add the same color correction. Now he's nice and deep fried. But now when we go back to the other scene with the backyardigans, he's not deep fried here, and that's because it's only affecting the mirror and not the actual base source itself. Now, in addition to that, another reason why this is really neat is that when you have these source mirror things, we can make a new scene. Let's call it like stream. This is my streaming scene. Let's add a Genshin screenshot to make it look like we're gaming. So we've got Zhongli's here, right? I also want to add like a little funny screenshot of my puppy. So you can source mirror sample scene 1, make this tiny down here in like the bottom of the screen. So this can be extremely useful for when you have a complex overlay or something like that, because then you can reference the overlay scene in your main scene and not have to worry about copying and pasting every single piece of it. It also is really excellent for, let's say we adjusted it and we moved puppy over here. Now in stream scene, puppy has been moved as well, because it's mirroring the scene and you don't have to actually manually move puppy in every scene that he is located in as well. He is being mirrored from this main scene. So I know this sounds really confusing, but bear with me. I think this is a really beneficial thing to learn how to do and manage, and it will help you have more control over your scenes and have more versatility to make adjustments to things in the future. So I highly recommend doing it this way. So now that you kind of know how source mirrors work, let's go ahead and start the tutorial. Now the first thing that we're going to do is we will make a scene that's going to have our VTuber in it. So let's go ahead and add our VTuber. Now if you are using a green screen, it's very likely that you will go ahead and say video capture device, and you will say VTuber base, green screen, and then you will set it to whichever software you are using that has a green screen on it. In my case, it would be VtubeStudio Cam. Obviously, I don't currently have a green screen on, so that's why it's black, but that's how you would add that. Now, if you are using transparency with VtubeStudio, let me quickly show you how to do that if you don't already know. You would want to double click on the backgrounds menu, scroll down to color picker, and make sure that this transparent and capture button is turned on. Once you do that, you can go ahead and right click, add a game capture. We're gonna make this VTuber base transparent. Make sure it's set to specific window, set the window to VtubeStudio, and make sure that it's checked allow transparency. I'm going to teleport inside of this other OBS instance. Voila! So the process will be exactly the same between the two, whether you are using a green screen or if you are using transparent game capture. But if you are using the green screen option, then there will be a couple points in time where I will let you know that you need to add in a color key. For the sake of the video, I'm just going to be using my transparent setup, but I will be adding in the color keys just so you can know where they will be. So we're going to right click and we're going to add our first source mirror, which is going to be VTuber with lighting. And the source for this is going to be our VTuber base. So now we have two of the same thing. We can go ahead and turn off the VTuber base just so we don't have to be confused about it right now. If you are a green screen user, you'll want to click on this, tap on filters, and we're going to add a color key right away off the bat. You will adjust all of the settings for the color key here. Obviously it's not showing up for me again because I'm not using the color key, but this is where you would put the first one in. I'm gonna mark this as invisible so that you can know where it is whenever we open up this menu, but it won't be actually affecting anything because I'm using transparent. Now, next up, we're going to make our scene that is going to include our display or whatever we're going to be doing on stream. So I'm going to just call this main display. And I'm going to go ahead and add in, normally you would do like a game capture, maybe a display capture or something here, but I'm just going to put in once again, a little Genshin screenshot so we can just, whatever this is. Perfect. This is exactly what I wanted. So we can kind of pretend that there's actually a game open for immersion purposes. Now we're also going to be making another scene, and this is going to be our lighting effect scene. I can't type. We're going to right click and we're going to add a source mirror of our main display that we're going to blur and use for this lighting effect scene. So I'm going to name this main display blur. We're going to set the source to that main display scene. Click on filters here and right click, add, and we're going to add a blur. Now you can blur this however you want to. I'm going to set it to dual filtering and put it up to 9. You can set it to whatever you want really, depending on the intensity of the lighting effect that you want to have. 9 is what Zephyr uses, I believe, so that's just what I'm going to be using here. Now we can go back to our VTuber scene here, and we're going to click on our VTuber with lighting. We're going to click on filters, and we're going to right click and add a new dynamic mask filter. And we're going to set this to our blurred display scene. We're going to set all of the base values to 0.2. So 0.2 in the red channel, 0.2 in the blue channel, or 0.2 in the green channel, and then 0.2 in the blue channel as well. Now this is really dark. If you put it to 0, you'll see that it goes completely black. Whoops. And we don't want that obviously, because if we're playing a very dark game, we would want to have at least a little bit of light. So 0.2 is what Zephyr uses, and that's I think what I use too. I'm almost certain. And now we're going to go back and change each color's corresponding color channel to 2. So for the red channel, we'll make the red input value 2. For the green channel, we'll make the green input value 2. And then for the blue channel, we'll make the blue input value for 2. So now we have all of this light from that main display blurred and overlaid on top of our VTuber. So let's go ahead and make our main scene. This is going to be my stream scene. Okay. And just for the sake of showing you again how like overlays and things would work, let's make an overlay scene. And I'm gonna add like everything that I would want in my overlay, but I don't have one of those, so I'm just going to put random in it so we can simulate this. And then let's add some text. And then let's add, great, this is exactly what I want. Okay, so this is gonna be my overlay now. So now let's add in our stream scene, it's gonna be a bunch of source mirrors. So we're gonna add source mirror first. This is gonna be a mirror of the overlay. And I'm going to mirror the overlay scene. Then I'm going to add a source mirror of my VTuber. And I'm going to mirror the VTuber scene. So now I have arrived. Hello. And now we're going to add another mirror, source mirror of main display. Main display scene. Perfect. So now I have my game, my overlay, and my VTuber with the lighting effect on it all in just 3 sources, where normally you would have this sum of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 sources. So obviously, and this is a very minimal design too, this is literally just a couple memes and like my game. In the case that you have a very complicated setup, this will add a little bit of ease to your life because your stream scene will be a little bit less cluttered and overcomplicated. This also helps a lot with if you are doing any form of automation with things like Leorin board or Stream Deck, because you will be able to reference a single source in the scene instead of having to reference each source itself. So hopefully that makes sense so far. You're doing a very good job. I'm very proud of you. Let's go ahead and add in the backlight now. So let's go back into our lighting effect scene. We're going to right click and add a source mirror. We're going to call this VTuber, sorry for the vehicle outside of my house, VTuber shadow. And we're going to mirror that base again. So use the VTuber base. Now we're going to use this VTuber shadow, we're going to add a filter, right click, add, and we're going to do color correction here. Turn the brightness to all the way down. Then for the opacity, you can change this depending on how intense you want the shadow to be. For me, I leave it a little bit further up and I'll explain why, but this is going to be a preference thing that you can play around with in a little bit. Now, this normally would just overlay the shadow over the exact same shape as your model itself. In order to make it have that rim light, we're gonna have to move it a little bit over. So you can use the arrow keys on your keyboard to move it down and to the right a little bit. And you can also add a blur. I'm just going to add a little bit of a box blur just so that there's not harsh lines on the edge of the actual shadow itself. In addition, if you are using a color key, you should go ahead and add that in now. So you can remove the green that is being reflected from your base cam. Now we can go back to our VTuber, click on our VTuber with lighting, and go to filters. We're going to right click, add, and we're going to add another dynamic mask. This dynamic mask's input is going to be the lighting effect scene. We're going to leave the base values at 1, but we're going to change each of the corresponding color channels to 5. So red channel 5, green channel 5, and then blue channel, blue input 5. And the result is this nice little rim light around us. If we go ahead and go to our stream scene now, we can see that we have the light from the scene reflected onto our avatar with a nice little backlight as well. Now, if you want to get more of that light, you can go into the VTuber shadow and you can play around with how much opacity you want. If you turn this down, there will be less of a shadow, but the problem is when you have a lighter scene like this, you will be very, very washed out. So I tend to keep mine pretty high. Now, like I said, the really cool thing about this is that if you do it this way, you'll only end up with a limited amount of sources with all of the source mirrors on here. So if you change, for example, like if you go back into your VTuber scene and swap back to the without lighting version of yourself, when you go back to stream scene, it'll be that same way because it's mirroring this scene. And you don't have to worry about making adjustments to the actual sources themselves. You can just reference what's been changed within the scenes. That sounds a little bit complicated, but it does come in handy with things like Stream Deck using multi-actions and hotkeys and things like that. So, like I said, let me close this instance of OBS and swap back to my other one. Sorry, you're in the void right now. Okay. If I use my Stream Deck, for example, and swap back over to my just chatting screen, it automatically changes my lighting and everything for me. So, and this is with multi-actions and hotkeys and everything. So it does come in handy to set everything up that way because then it will be smarter and easier to work with in the future. And then if you want to change one thing, you don't have to worry about having to change that one thing within every single scene. You can just change it within the scene and then it will update as a source mirror within everything else that it's a part of. Anyway, hopefully you can enjoy your fancy little lighting within your streams now. I hope that was helpful. If you have any questions about how I got all of the other display lighting set up, or any questions about my Stream Deck and hotkeys, go ahead and leave a comment down below and I will try to get around to it at some point. Anyway, take care of yourself and have a wonderful day, or morning, or evening. Bye!